food has always played a hugely important part of my family's life. If we're not eating it, then we're talking about it. And that goes for my extended family of friends too. But then, food always has to be more than just fuel. It's what brings our memories together. And family food is comfort food. And we all have certain things that, you know, when you eat them, you feel instantly better.
The food I really love eating, well, in common with lots of us, is the food that my mother cooked when I was a child. And this is my desert island dish. If I could choose the last meal I'd eat on earth, her beef with sauce béarnaise. Oh, and afterwards I would have to have my granny's pears belle Hélène, which is poached pears with vanilla ice cream and the most dark, luscious chocolate sauce. Mm-hmm. But now I'm just going to light the griddle. It should take about 5 minutes to heat up, which is about the right time to do the sauce. 3 egg yolks. If you were to look up sauce béarnaise in the Larousse Gastronomique, you would be told to start with a reduction of shallots, white wine, chervil, tarragon, various other things. Now, I don't do it that way, not out of any disrespect, just because I do it the way my mother did, which tastes great to me, which is really a question of just mixing egg yolks with some dried tarragon, a bit of tarragon vinegar, just a bit, and salt, and whisk away over this pan of simmering water, but the base shouldn't touch the water, and nor will it. And just whisk away, adding butter until it thickens. A bit like, just think of it as hot mayonnaise with herbs in it. When I was a child, one of us used to have the job of chopping the butter into cubes, and the other would be stood on a chair, propped up right near the stove, and whisking. And actually, this is the best way to learn. That's why I learned to make this by watching, like you're watching now. You can't learn to cook in a better way. I suppose that's one of the reasons why I'm so fond of this, and why I now am a great believer in child labour, and make my children stand on stools, stirring hot sauces. And they learn not to burn themselves too. I know a lot of people are quite anxious about sauces like this with egg yolks and butter because they can split or curdle. But that's why I dredged on my pan full of cold water, because if it does get overheated, if the sauce looks like it's curdling, well, all I'm going to do is just lift up this pan, plunge it there so the temperature immediately drops, whisk like crazy, and then it should see off any problem. And I'm not saying that will happen or that you should worry, but I really think in life, if you prepare for the worst, then it may not happen. It pays to be patient because you just want to add another cube as one melts. Because if you go slowly, the sauce will thicken wonderfully, just like when you make mayonnaise, you add the oil slowly. And if you do in one huge heap, you'll just find it difficult to keep the heat up. Just a bit more butter. And as you get a good solid lump of sauce, then you can start adding more butter in at one time. So all my butter's absorbed, and just time for a lovely bit of lemon just to sharpen it up. Just do it by eye and then by taste. Well, that's that done for now. All I'm going to do at the end is add some freshly chopped tarragon just to spruce it up, but for now I'll leave it and get on with the beef. This is a cut I really like. What it is, it's 1 inch thick along the whole of the top rump, and you cook it like a steak, but then afterwards slice it really thinly on a diagonal like that, which makes it taste so succulent and actually makes it go a lot further, so that's great. One of the rules about griddling is oil the meat and not the griddle, because if you oil the griddle, it'll just smoke like hell. I'm not saying it won't, but here goes. I like my beef really underdone, so I'm only going to give this about 2 minutes aside. I love a bit of tong action. Now, if you haven't got a griddle, do not worry. You can use a domestic grill if it's hot enough. You can use a frying pan. You can use the oven, just remembering, cook this as a steak. I look at it from its thickness, don't weigh it. I think it's going to be ready to turn now. Wow, it looks wonderful. All tiger striped. Yum, yum. Then another few minutes and that'll be perfect. And that's it, really. Not too much work for the most fantastic meal. Well, this looks ready for me, so I'm just going to let it rest for a while on my board. It's off. Of salt. Meat should be salty. Now, the reason why you leave meat to rest is that when it's hot and on a pan, all its juice is near the outside, so if you just cut through it, the juice will just run out and all the flavour with it. Whereas if you let it sit just for a few minutes, the juices go all the way through the centre, making the whole cut really succulent and delicious. So I've got to add some tarragon to my sauce. It's just a teeny weeny bit of fresh tarragon just to spruce it up, and just because that gives you a lovely sort of herbal hit at the end, but not too much. You'll feel you're in the middle of some new mown hay. That's enough. Yum, yum, yum. So that's it. I'm just going to leave it there. Don't worry about it cooling down because it should be at room temperature. The beef. I wanted to just show you one thing, is that I like my beef really underdone, and you can tell how well beef is cooked without stabbing it, simply because if you press it and it feels really soft and sort of yielding, that means it's underdone. If it's a teeny bit bouncy, it means it's medium, and you don't need to tell me if it's hard. It's well done. So this feels lovely and soft and buttery, and I'm going to start slicing into it diagonally across. I am the world's worst carver, which is probably one of the reasons why I like this cut. I can't resist this just like this now. Hang on. Traditionally you should have chips, which I think is making things quite stressful. And I love it just with a green salad and a baguette, so you can dip the baguette into all this lovely buttery sauce and into those wonderful red juices. I think my mummy would be proud of me. My granny's pears Bella Len. Poached pears, vanilla ice cream and hot, thick, dark chocolate sauce. The pears just peeled, halved and cored, and they're just poached in a vanilla syrup. And that is really just water, sugar and a vanilla pod, nothing scary. This is the easiest chocolate sauce you could imagine. Just a couple of bars of chocolate, half a cup of sugar. I like to use instant espresso powder because you can just pour on the water and then sprinkle over the powder. Don't even have to reconstitute it. But of course use any instant coffee or indeed real coffee that you like. And then you just pour in the cream, stir again, and that's it. This sauce is so good to have in your repertoire. You can use it to zhuzh up any tub of bought ice cream. And right at the end, if you sprinkle over some finely chopped pistachios, it adds colour and wonderful crunch. So good, sweetheart. This is Marmite and butter blended together. This is how I make Marmite sandwiches. Sounds mad to be suggesting a shortcut when it's not exactly a lengthy procedure. When you've got lots of children, you do want to make them very, very quickly, all in one go. There's one spreading only, and they do make the best Marmite sandwiches in the world. Do you want your sandwiches? Do you want to come and get them? You want, Joe?
It's Mama. Who thinks it's peanut?
I know, it looks like peanut butter. Have you done it some more?
It tastes good to it, Mama.
It's good in the Marmite, great. Not all the influences on the food I cook come from my family. Some of them come from what I think of as my acquired family, which is my library. And I am a complete food book junkie. I mean, every single book in this room, and there are plenty on the floor, are food books. I mean, some of them I've just picked up out of a sort of obsessiveness, but some of them have played an enormous part of my life. I mean, this book, you can see just from the cracks in the spine how much it's been read. And Anna Del Conte, who's written it, is, I'd say, sort of the greatest maternal influence on my life in the kitchen, you know, after my mother. And another woman, too, has played that sort of role that I feel very moved and influenced by her writing, and that's Claudia Roden. And this book has a recipe in it, which I cook so often. It's for tagliatelle with chicken. It's from Venice. And I've cooked it so often in the few years since this book came out that I now feel, you know, did I actually eat this in my childhood? You know, surely I couldn't just have been eating it for the last few years. Oh, perfect. Couldn't be simpler either. This roast chicken is to go with tagliatelle, and I'm going to make a sauce out of the lovely juices. What I'm just going to do is rather fabulously prong this beast and get rid of it for a while to get a bit cooler. I have to train myself to use oven gloves because I'm covered in burns. Pour these wonderful brown juices from the chicken, which is really just a bit of olive oil. And add some toasted pine nuts, not that many, just a bit. Wonderful gold on gold. Some sultanas, which I've soaked in water. And some rosemary. Not too much, because it is very aromatic. You just want a subtle taste of it rather than an incredibly soapy hit. One of the reasons why I'm really fond of this recipe, well, obviously apart from the way it tastes, which is wonderful, is that it comes from Venice, and that's where I got married, so. Now, chicken. Time for a bit of dismembering and surgery. Nothing I like more. I've got hands like asbestos, but you can use a knife and fork if you want, or just leave it to get a bit cooler. But I like pulling it apart with my bare hands. I'm doing this like this because I want nice rough chunks, nothing neat and elegantly sliced. You're going to have to be patient with me. This is going to take some time. I want the whole of this chicken, including the skin. I'm going to just wipe my hands because this gets very messy, which I have to say I rather like, but now tagliatelle. It's much better to let the chicken sit about and never the pasta. That's it. Come on, babies. This will take about 4 minutes, no more. So I'll just heat my sauce up and get rid of the chicken. I want to keep bones for stock, and I'm not going to wash this up because it's got all the lovely chickeny bits from when the chicken was sitting in there. Well, that's about the size of it. Tagliatelle have to cook, sauce has to get warm. That is so wonderful. I'm just going to taste the pasta. I like to test it about a minute before it says, just in case. Just as well, because it's perfect. So now, I'm going to throw cold water over it. This brings down the temperature straight away, and then delicate pasta like this won't get overcooked. Great, now I'm going to move fast before this goes claggy. Pour half these lovely juices over. The Italians never use as much sauce as we do. You just have to be a bit more patient as you toss it through. Coming over with my meat. Oh, this is just family food at its best. And now the last half of the chicken juices. And that's it. I'm going to freeze this chicken carcass, and even though you can't make any stock just with one carcass, I like to freeze them as I go along and build up a supply till I've got enough. And to that end, if I'm at a friend's house and we're having roast chicken for lunch, I just ask them if I can hit the carcass back home with me, and I stash it in my deep freeze at home, and then I'm a bit nearer to having enough for stock. I love cooking with my children, and one of their favourite things to make are green cakes. A mix of broccoli, peas and cold potatoes, all mashed up and bound with an egg.
Yeah, Daddy, clever.
Very good, Mimi. No, sweetheart, that's the rind, so we just want you to put this bit like that. But your fingers underneath a bit sharp.
Salmon. Where's
What?
the salmon?
What salmon? Yeah. Yeah? Dip them in matzo meal or breadcrumbs and fry them till they're lovely and crispy. It's a great way, I've found, to get children to eat vegetables. Not that I'm promising anything. I'm sometimes extravagant, but I am never wasteful. I can't throw anything away. I can't even throw away an egg white. But why would you want to? I stash them in my deep freeze, and then when I want to, I can make meringues, or better still, pavlova. But we make this pavlova so often at home, I can't work out whether in years to come my children will either absolutely be passionate about it or never be able to face one again. But whatever, they will need, if they're going to make it, 4 egg whites. Mine are defrosted in batches of 2 because that's how they were in the deep freeze. And if you've got a mangy old lemon knocking about, like I always seem to in my fridge, then it's really helpful if you just wipe it round the inside of your bowl, because that will get rid of any grease and means that the egg whites bulk up beautifully and a bit faster. The egg whites, 2 in. Second 2. Now I get to use my favourite toy. Just turn on and whiz, and I can just watch it do anything, find my nails. But this should take us about a couple of minutes. I'm not going to beat them too fast. Or maybe I am. I get so impatient. Come on, live a little. What I'm looking for the egg whites to be holding firm peaks, not stiffly whipped, just at that smooth, firm peak stage, which looks about. Now, great, so now the sugar, just whisking very gently to fold it in. For each egg white, you need 4 tablespoons of sugar. A tablespoonful is a precise measurement in cooking. It's 15 mils, or if it helps, think of 15 mils as 3 teaspoons. 3 cowpole spoons. Last one. And now, I'm going to turn this meringue into pavlova. Watch. 1 teaspoon of wine vinegar. I know it sounds odd, and it is odd, but it works. And 2 teaspoons of corn flour. These 2 ingredients keep the belly of the meringue wonderfully chewy and marshmallowy, which is what a pavlova should be. A few drops of real vanilla. I'm going to fold these in rather than using the whisk, because I want a lot of air in. I want to do it gently. Just spoon under and over so as not to lose any air, but don't worry about incorporating everything within a centimetre of its life. And then pile it onto the tin. You don't have to do this, but if you've just got any old sandwich tin, It's about 20 centimetres in diameter. And then fill in here. Or just do it, or just pile it in without making any sort of measurement. It's not crucial. But I want this to be thick and gooey in the middle, not a shallow disc. Lovely. Don't get too hung up, though, about doing the perfect circle. You know, this is just ordinary home cooking. It's not meant to be perfection. Anyway, it's what it tastes like that matters. I think I'm just going to get a spatula to make the sides smooth. And that's it. To the oven. Hotter oven than you might think for meringue, 180, gas mark 4. But there's a reason. I want the meringue to go in the heat and so crisp up on the outside, but then I'm turning it down to 150, gas mark 2, so that the inside cooks more slowly and stays soft and marshmallowy. The perfect pav. This is not only ready, but completely cold, because I find if you let a meringue cool in the oven gradually, as the oven itself loses temperature, it stays chewy. Now for the unveiling. This is a tip I learnt from Stephanie Alexander, the Australian food writer. It's her family way of doing it. You invert it and put it on your serving dish with the soft bit that's been next to the paper on top, so the cream that's piled all over this melds with all this marshmallowy bit of meringue. And the bottom and sides are crisp. Perfect. I've used the same toy to whisk the cream. Just pile it over, nothing neat. Neatness is something beyond me. That's it. And now the fruit. I'm a real single fruit person when it comes to pavlova. I don't like a fruit salad on top of it, and I think it works really well using passion fruit, just scooping them out with a teaspoon, because the sourness, the aromatic sourness of the passion fruit works so well against the sugary sweetness of the meringue. Red currants and blackberries are good. I don't really like strawberries for the reason that they aren't sour enough. Although, having said that, the last ones I bought really were, so... Anyway, you use what you want. This is all personal taste, and that's so important, as always, is that I'm not telling you what taste you should have. I'm just telling you what I think. And here it is.